Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar on badging. We should be starting in a couple of minutes. Just to tell you, you're very, very welcome, and we're happy to have you here. As we're waiting for the last few people who will join into the webinar, I encourage you to type in your name, your organization, and the city that you're calling in from. Yes, I can see that it's raining in the Philippines, much as I understand it's raining in London. So yeah, good to hear. So let's get to know each other on the chat for the first few minutes as we wait for a few more people to join. And thank you once again for joining us today. Welcome, Elena. Welcome, Azam Khan. I can see people are joining in. Welcome all. It looks like there's not very great weather all over the place. That's interesting. Yeah, we'll be starting in 1 second. Just one more minute. Okay, great. I think we can start now. So we are very excited to have the opportunity today to go through badging and to learn how it is that we can achieve badges or create them and what they are, what they stand for, etc. So we are very excited to be going through this. I can see Don is online now. And Don, maybe you could introduce yourself.
Sure. Don Presant. I am the platform manager with Hpath. I've been doing that since 2017. I've been working with digital badges, open badges since 2011. So I sort of jumped on quite early and been active with educational technology and worked with other organizations such as MSF. So I'm very happy to be here today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for making time to be with us. And I'm Sheila Waruhiu. I'm the Talent Management and Capacity Building Manager for Save the Children International. I know you're used to seeing Lisa sitting here. It's a new face. Lisa, we miss you, but Lisa is on this call. Yeah, we're very happy to be here. So this is the 9th of a series of 10 webinars on online learning that the Humanitarian Leadership Academy has been leading on. And today we will be covering badging, as I already talked about. You're free to use the chat box as this is a webinar. That's the best way for us to communicate. And as you do that, just make sure that your settings are set for all panelists and attendees so that you are speaking to everyone. We also have the Q&A section where you can put in any questions that you have as we move along. We will address questions at 2 times during this webinar. Halfway through, we'll stop and look at the questions that have come through. And then once again at the end, we'll address questions. So please feel free to put in your questions as we go. And to let you know that this session is recorded and the recorded version will be available on the Academy website where you registered. So please be on the lookout for that. The slides will also be available for your view at that time. We encourage active listening. And at the end, you can claim your badge. Many of you have already had the experience of doing that. You just need to fill in a short reflection document and you'll be able to claim your badge. We have got the Twitter handles there for your communication. So we look forward to seeing you participate on social media as well. So I think at this point, I will hand over to Don, and we look forward to a really great and informative presentation. Thank you.
Great, thanks very much, Sheila. We have an action-packed agenda for you today. Basically, it's to sort of frame things to begin with. What are the challenges for humanitarian learning? You'll have an early chance to earn a badge. It's what we would call a light touch badge, but it gets at some of the power of the badge to surface learning, to make learning more visible. And then we'll go into some more detail about what we're doing with Hpath and how we're meeting some of the challenges for learning and recognition in the sector. And then give you a chance to react to that, ask questions, provide some feedback for us. And then we'll shift gears, become a little more practical and go into, what does it take to create a badge that will be meaningful and useful in humanitarian action. And then we'll wind up and think about what we have learned for the day, give you some ideas for next steps. And one of those next steps will be the chance to earn yet another badge that's outside of the usual webinar badges that many of you would have been earning. And that is to start making your own badge using a form that we've created for you in the badge application form. And then just winding up with business further. So I'm going to, oh, that's right. At this point, we're going to run a poll and just get an idea of what people are, where people are at, although it seems that we'll probably need to pull the poll in a bit later. So I'll just move on right now, and we will go into the challenges of humanitarian learning and recognition. So we have a pretty big theater of action, a lot of organizations, a lot of workers, a lot of volunteers, a lot of moving parts, and a number of affected communities and different agencies, and a certain amount of fragmentation, a certain amount of not knowing who the other actors are. And that creates a lot of challenges and a lot of potential waste, actually, where when people have helped in one disaster, being overlooked the next time another disaster comes in that area. So that's one of the reasons that the localization agenda is huge in the humanitarian sector right now. The idea of pushing control, pushing the ability to act to the edges rather than relying on INGOs to come in. And Hpath is designed to help that. So we have a lot of workers and volunteers who learn on the job and have some difficulty in getting formal recognition for what they know and can do, in some cases to get formal education for what they know and can do. We have a lot of movement between theaters of operation, between organizations, and it would be great to have a way of taking your skills with you, like a portmanteau or a portfolio. And then often emergencies coming on stream. So the idea of surge capacity, rapid deployment, and having rosters, dependable rosters of people you can call on when in need. So essentially, this is just a map of the world, is to say that we need to make recognition of skills and abilities and capacities more visible and more portable between theaters of operation. So we have, I think, a diverse audience here today, and let's just take an opportunity to find out a little bit more about you. We have an opportunity for you to do so. Many people are more than their resume. I have a resume that says I got a university degree. It doesn't really tell you that much about me. I'm really more the sum of what I've done in my life. And that really sums a lot of us up. So I have a hidden talent, actually. I have a talent which is that I'm a bit of a video expert. I used to be, before I got involved with badges, I used to work at an educational broadcaster in Canada called TV Ontario, a little bit like the BBC. And I went there as a video editor, and I know quite a bit about video. I can put together a video, I can give people advice. I wouldn't put myself out there right now as being somebody who can compete with the professionals who are doing it daily, but I can help people structure a video. I can do simple videos, certainly video tutorials, etc. So if somebody needs to know about how to put a video together, I'm a person they can come to. So I imagine maybe there are people in the audience who have special skills that not a lot of people know about. Perhaps you have a language that people know. Perhaps you have a particular skill, something you developed, say, last year and continue to develop. Perhaps you have a hobby. Perhaps you're a musician. Or you are an amazing cook. You can put together a really amazing meal from nothing. So we're going to give you a chance to talk about what you know and can do, and very briefly, in what's called a badge application form. So I encourage you, hopefully you're on a computer and you can click on this. I think Sheila, has just copied that URL into the chat as well. But if you have a QR code reader, you can do this. And essentially, all we're looking for is for you to give us your name, your email address, and this is the one question you have to answer. What is your hidden talent, and why might that be significant if you have the chance? But it could just be, what is your hidden talent? And tell us a little story about it, how you acquired it. And that will give it more credibility and help people retain what they know about you. If you like, you can upload some evidence that would support that, or just provide other support down here in textual form. So I'm going to give you a bit of a chance to do that, maybe about 2 or 3 minutes, and we'll take any comments in the chat at the same time, if people know. But I'm just going to give you about 2 or 3 minutes to do that. We should have some music playing.
That's all right. Thanks, Don. So if you just copy and paste that link into the browser, you will be able to get onto the site that will ask you a couple of questions, and we'll just give you a few minutes to go through that. And there's some interesting comments coming in through here, Don. There's somebody who really admires your skill on videoing, let's say. So there you go. Somebody's very...
and that's without evidence. So imagine if you saw the evidence. So that's great. I'm just going to cut out because I see the sun's poking through. I'm in Canada. It's nice and sunny here, unlike so much rain somewhere else. And I'm going to bring down the curtain so my green screen won't betray me. Just a second.
No worries at all. So I hope you're getting on okay as you go online and you fill in that form that asks your name, your address. You can talk a little bit about your hidden talent and some evidence to support that, although that section is optional. Then you just have to tick the terms and conditions, and then you can submit your application. So it'd be good to hear those of you who are able to go through that process successfully. Feel free to let us know on the chat that you've been able to go through that successfully.
Great. So
I've just asked everybody to go through, and then they can let us know in the chat if they're successful once they've filled in the format. I don't know whether you want to continue as we wait.
Sure.
Or...
Yeah, we've got a few here. So let's just move on while we do that. You can do that as you listen. So I'll move on and go further. So let's just talk about how Hpath is meeting some of those needs. Our goal is to support and strengthen humanitarians everywhere. We're a platform that was set up in 2017 for professional development in the sector of humanitarian action. So we are supported by quality standards, and I'll talk just a little bit about that. And this notion of trustability in credentials and some mobility in order to make them more accessible and yet more trustable. Because we believe that what people know and can do should be recognized, and that can be formal education, that be non-formal education, that can be experienced, and we just need better ways of doing that. So 8 organizations are part of the steering committee, but it's led by the Humanitarian Leadership Academy out of Save Children right now, and it's intended to serve the entire sector. So you'll see a lot of Humanitarian Leadership Academy badges, but you'll also see badges from REDAR, for example, from IFRC, and a number of other organizations that are going to be quite familiar to you. We're in a sort of a heavy growth mode right now and accepting a lot of new organizations coming on stream, both international NGOs and local actors in the various theaters of operation. So there's an example of some of them. We're working currently with over 25 organizations, and the Center for Humanitarian Learning and Innovation may be familiar to some of you that are in the Philippines today. That's great. So just to basically talk about, we're serving essentially 3 audiences, and the most important audience we're serving is individual humanitarians who might be staff, who might be volunteers, and these are people who want to be able to plan development and be mindful about the way they develop themselves in their careers as they help with humanitarian action. So they want to look for opportunities to work in quality learning, and also network, connect with employers who may be able to employ them. Over on the right-hand side, we have 2 kinds of organizations. We have a number of independent trainers and educators, but we also have organizations that are active in humanitarian action. So these would be international NGOs, but also local organizations who need to find people who know and can do things and can be relied on doing that. So both those organizations are looking to profile quality learning opportunities, and then the results of those quality learning opportunities, people who are more professional and can be trusted to do the tasks that they're doing. Underpinning a lot of this and inspiring a lot of what we do are 2 sets of standards. One of them is the Humanitarian Learning Standards, and those are basically 8 principles that point to things like accessibility. It's not so much about content, it's about the processes as an organization. No matter what course you put together, are you putting it together in a quality way? And also we have standards for assessment of competency. So let's say you didn't take a course, but you have 3 years of experience dealing with disasters. You have probably developed a lot of skills along the way. And we have standards that are set up to help organizations assess those better and more equitably. So digital badge, I sometimes call it an open badge, because that's a standard for digital badges that makes them portable, makes them readable, so that something that's awarded in one place can be read in another place. What I often say is that they're documents. They are standard formatted documents that have information in them that people would expect to see laid out in a certain way, such as who issued it, what was it issued for, and what was the level of assessment, what's the level of rigor, what's the level of effort that went into that. So what's the significance of this to my needs right now? So I'm going to be going into detail about that. But basically, you can earn them in a variety of ways, and we'll talk about that. You are able to manage them in one place, and you can build a portfolio based in part on these badges, and to say, yes, I have this expertise in this area, but I also have expertise in these other areas, and here's some other information I can give you about me and my ability to work with you right now. So when you click on a badge, it's like flipping a certificate over, and you see the information that's in it. And they can be downloaded as PDF documents too, and just be read on paper, and then link back to this trusted source where the badge is hosted, where you see who gave it to you, what it was given for, and you can click on the link and verify that it's real. You can earn them from various providers because it's a standard, and manage them in one place. And we're working with a lot of organizations on a particular platform called the Badge Factory, and I'll show you that. Badges in general have been adopted by a wide variety of organizations. They've really sort of hit a growth spurt in 2017 after being invented in 2011. Last year's statistic was that there were over 25 million badges issued. The stats are coming out for this year very soon. I suspect it'll be over 50 million or more. We're growing fast on the Hpath platform itself. We have over 5,000 humanitarians. It's actually about 10,000 badges and about 3,600 of them displayed right now. Many different varieties of badges, over 200 different kinds of badges are being issued on the platform. So this is a picture of my dashboard on a free account where I can receive badges, and you can receive badges as well, and you can manage a profile. So here's a snapshot of some of the badges that I've earned, and I can, as I said, curate those in a profile. And I'll show you what that looks like. We have an idealized exemplar here. This is not a real person. Victoria, we have set up to provide her as an example. But imagine you're someone who's based in East Africa, in this case in Nairobi. You might have expertise in logistics. This might be your profile page where you basically introduce yourself, and just a little showcase of some of the badges you might be particularly proud of. And then you could manage a sub-page underneath that with your expertise in logistics. And I can show you, if we have time, I can show you live what that looks like. We are working with OpenStreetMap, and this notion, you remember the map I showed you before. Well, our OpenStreetMap is starting to get populated with who is out there and what badges that they have earned. And we're picking up a lot of interest, as you can see, in sub-Saharan Africa and other places as well, including the Philippines. So this is an opt-in. I just want to emphasize that. And just say that you don't have to put yourself on there. It respects privacy very much in terms of that. So I think we can handle some question and answer now. We're, I think, doing quite well for time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Don. So we haven't received any questions in the Q&A or chat box. So I think this is a good time for us to ask our question around badging. So it would be good to hear from you. If you've earned a badge at all for any kind of learning activity, if you could just type in yes or no into the chat box, it will give us an idea of your level of interaction with badging. So yes, we're beginning to see yeses coming in. So if you've earned any badge at all for a learning activity, please type in yes into the chat box. Yes. Yes, so we have quite a few yeses. There's one no so far, and there's somebody who has specified that their first time of earning a badge was through this webinar series. So that's interesting. What about having oh, there's somebody who says that they gained one today for the first time in their life. How appropriate that you got that one when we are having the webinar on badges. That's good. And we also have Nada here, who has many badges. So we have a range of no badge to many badges. That's wonderful. Thank you for interacting with us. Could you perhaps also tell us now if you've created a badge or been part of a process where a badge was created for learning? Again, just a yes or no in the chat box. Elena has never created one. Yes, Farha created last webinar. Yeah, so a few yeses. Most people have not yet created badges from what I can see. Okay, that's really good. So this webinar then is good in giving us an idea of what the next steps would be if we wanted to create badging in perhaps we are in an institution where we are teaching or where there's some sort of training that we're giving and would like to give people the opportunity to earn a badge. Just one last question that I'll ask before we move on is, what do you think is one of the best or the biggest advantage of badges from what you've heard so far, from what Don has presented? Just one thing you think is really great about badges, if you could put that in the chat box. Nada also says she'd love to design a badge for her participants. So that's great. Nada, I'm sure you'll get the opportunity.
Nada, you'll have a chance to start one at the end of the session. We have sort of a guided form for you to do that, and if you have any issues with that, I'm available as well to help you through it. I will say we've had some badge applications come through, some hidden talents. The one I'm looking at right now, I won't say who it is because I'll leave it up to them to share it, but copy editing, proofreading, layout, acquired through my journalism experience in high school and as editor-in-chief of our school paper, then as a news editor during college. So that's useful.
Excellent, excellent. So really good advantages people are citing for badges. One is that a badge can express who I am. And then Elena says they're a good way to ask users to recap learned concepts. It motivates participants to be more engaged. Thank you for that. Loren says it's really easy to collaborate on your resume or your CV. It's a kind of motivation recognition. It's a way to recognize skills, expertise. Thank you, Anne. Pablo says formalize a process training you've been through. It's a model. So there's a lot of advantages I think that we can see here. It's a reminder that we already have some knowledge, which can be good for our self-confidence, and it recognizes achievements. So feel free to go down the list and see all the other advantages that people are citing. So I think what this is saying to us is that it's a worthwhile kind of an activity to get into, either earning a badge or if you're in a position to create badges for other learners, to do that as well. Okay, so at this point, I will hand over back to you, Don, and we'll check if we get some more questions as we move along. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, so those are good. I would notice we have an ultra marathon runner among us, so that was pretty interesting. So it's amazing what surfaces when you simply ask a question and don't have preconceived ideas about what people know and can do. So let's shift gears to creating and issuing a badge. This is sort of a quick, I would say, taxonomy of the kinds of ways that you can do it. And I think what people go to first and what people often start with is the idea of I'm going to deliver a course, and if people pass the assessment at the end of the course, I'm going to give them a certificate for the course, and that certificate comes in the form of a badge. And that's certainly what's driving a lot of growth on Hpath right now through platforms such as Kaya Connect, and we're also working with Disaster Ready platform. But they can do a lot more as well. But that said, you could have a course that's a highly rigorous course and a strong assessment at the end, or you can have more of a light touch course, such as what we're doing today, a webinar where you reflect on what you've learned, and there's a sort of a light evaluation of that. And those are two valid ways of doing it, and as long as they're presented transparently, people would look at that and understand it. So if I offer you the badge later and say I have these badges in this area of expertise, you would be able to see these certificates of varying weight and be able to make a judgment in addition to talking to me and looking at other evidence. The other element here, and this is something picked up with PMD Pro and also Hpath Professionals for Assistance in Humanitarian Protection, is what they call a certification. So this would be some kind of a strong evaluation of what you know and can do, possibly with a psychometric exam. So Hpath offers invigilated quizzes online where a video camera is looking at you, making sure you're not cheating. If you hit the cut score, you basically would be able to say, I'm qualified in advanced monitoring and evaluation. Similarly, for PMD Pro, project management, there's an invigilated exam for that. So that's another approach. And the important thing about that approach is typically it's not associated with having to take a course and then passing that course. It's, can you do this thing that's been defined, hopefully in a very standardized way. And it costs a lot of money to put together, but then once you run it, it's a fairly standard way of running it. So that's another approach. The one on the right is more certification. I'm a performance consultant. This is with the Learning and Performance Institute out of the UK, which may be familiar to some. So typically time-based, you have to maintain it. It's a bit like being part of a professional body. Another one would be membership. So Hpath has a fairly formalized membership qualifications. So you have to sign a code of ethics, you have to pay a membership fee, you have to have X amount of experience in the sector. So you're a member of that. But IFRC is going through a change management exercise right now, and they're engaging movers and shakers in their organization to help them make that change. And they're basically engaging those people as members so they feel part of something bigger. So that's a little less formal. On Hpath itself, you can earn a badge that simply says, I'm an Hpath member, I support Hpath, and that's a very light touch membership. Again, it's a way of bringing people together. Down at the bottom, this is where a lot of the growth is, other types of recognition. So you took a course, but how did you apply that learning in the workplace, and how was that evaluated? Did someone observe you, and did you do that? Did you reflect on your learning? So we're doing a bit of that today after this webinar, and that will be another chance to earn a badge. Maybe you had to be evaluated to show your qualifications. So you had to pull together an evidence package or specific, targeted portfolio that shows you're a wash expert or that you're a logistics expert, and maybe you got a badge for that. Or maybe you're simply being recognized for professional community service. So when Hpath was put together, the standards were put together, we engaged with a number of experts in the community, and if they helped us through that process, we awarded them a badge at the end, and that's that badge there. So here's this badge is a milestone badge. If you earn 3 badges in the last 5 of these webinars in this series, you'll get this milestone badge that is a little more weight than just the other badge. You basically show an engagement and thought about what you've learned in the series, in the latter half of the series. The one on the bottom right is basically my own badge, which is more of a values-based badge. This is me declaring that I believe in the open recognition of what a person knows and can do, and I've signed a badge that supports that. So just other ways of doing this. We have badge pathways. So I mentioned, actually, let's just go back. This is a badge pathway. You earn 3 out of the 5 badges and you get the master badge. This is another kind of pathway run by Warchild, and it's for this master badge, which is their integrity framework badge, which they will require to be able to deploy people on missions. So it's a number of courses that are available. There's the introduction to integrity. There's the specifics about the code of conduct, about child safeguarding, and about anti-fraud and anti-corruption. And they're actually recognizing, the reason we're showing this example, they're actually recognizing a badge from the Academy, which is Safeguarding Essentials, which is a very popular badge on our system right now. And they're saying, well, we don't have to deliver that course. We like what the Academy did, so we're just going to curate that course in our learning pathway and make it part of our learning pathway for the integrity framework. So this is one way in which we're helping the sector by not reinventing the wheel. So the way it works, if you're an organization who wants to badge, we would welcome you to join us and open up a space for you on the Badge Factory platform, where you can create badges and issue them and monitor how they're being used. You would issue your badges from there, perhaps on Kaya. We have a lot of traffic coming from Kaya, but also perhaps on Disaster Ready or your own platform. For example, World Vision has its own Moodle platform where it's issuing badges, and a number of others are similar. Individuals would earn those badges in various ways. It doesn't have to be an online program, although in these days of COVID, a lot of them are online, but it will support blended learning, as I say, workplace observation, targeted evidence packages, whatever. You get an email saying, here's your badge. We encourage you to accept it on my Hpath, which would be a free account for you, where basically you can manage your professional portfolio built on badges and other evidence that you can upload and input there. From there, you can share to social media. So it's we show you how to share your badge to your LinkedIn, for example, if you're also using that social network. There's also ways of sharing your badges to a page on Facebook or just on a post on Twitter. So yes, and the other thing to say here is that you're also able to print out your badge, and it'll come printed out with a QR code so people can use their phone to verify the badge and see that it's real. So what helps give badges meaning is when you can say this badge is aligned to a particular skill. That skill might be the core humanitarian competency framework, which is what we call a transversal or horizontal framework. So in other words, across the sector, we want people who can achieve results, who can operate safely in security, who can demonstrate leadership, etc. So that's a transversal framework, but we also have the sphere standards, which deal with things such as WASH, such as logistics, such as food security, and we have standards built around those. And there are courses and resources that support those. So as people become expert in those areas, they can earn badges that will assert those and assert those in an authentic way. So I took a course, I did the assessment, I know this, I have 2 years experience in deploying this, and this organization says I did it. So that's one way in which the badges can have value and be found. Another way is what we call endorsement, and that is where a peer organization supports the badge that you're issuing and says why they support it. So in the Safeguarding Essentials example is safeguarding was a big issue that arose about 24 months ago. This course was put together by Open University, working with a number of other organizations. And so while this badge is issued by the Humanitarian Leadership Academy, it's been endorsed by these organizations. It's actually 15 now. This is an older slide. If you click on that link, this page opens up and Open University says things like, well, we worked on this, so of course we endorse it. These other organizations, such as UNICEF, say, we sat on the committee where the objectives of this course were put together, so we support this badge. War Child goes further and says, like I showed you, this is part of our learning path for sending people out on mission. So all of that really sort of adds to the trust, adds to the value behind the badge. And this is more sort of a peer organization idea. This is something that's a little sort of more sort of what people often think of as quality. It's useful as well. I mentioned we have those standards, and yeah, we have the learning standards and the assessment standards. Institut Bioforce is an organization out of France. It has become Hpath certified for assessment standards. These are the humanitarian learning standards. So they basically put together a body of evidence. They did a self-evaluation. They basically, an external party came in and checked their evidence against the standards. In this case, it was Pearson Learning Europe, and said, yes, they do support the standards. So they became Hpath certified so that their processes for putting courses together meet the standard. And this will be, this will again add value to the badge in a somewhat more high stakes kind of way. And this is a time delimited form of accreditation, you might say. It's being accredited by Hpath as being Hpath certified. So different ways of adding value. So let's shift gears here. We're now at about 20 to the hour. I think we have some good time to give you a picture. So imagine you're an organization that has is working with us with Hpath. You've maybe gone through your induction where we've shown you how the platform works. We've given you some ideas. We've given you some templates and tools to get started with. So you're thinking through, okay, what's the badge? What's the badge I'm going to start with and start learning about what this can do? So what you want to do is start offline and think about why are you doing it? How will it help? And then think about, okay, how am I going to deliver this? Is it a course? Is it an evaluation? Is it a combination of things? And then you create the badge content. You sort of write the information that goes into the badge, and we have guides that help you do that. And then the fun part, you design the badge image, and we have ways to help you design sort of more standard Hpath-y look badges. You see that U shape there and the different colors for the different organizations, but other organizations take a totally independent path as well. But as I say, making the badge image is fun, but you find ways of supporting it. And then you implement it, and then you monitor it. So you see how it's doing, you tweak it, you start adding other badges, you start maybe building badge pathways. You look at what other badges are available. Maybe you can recognize those in your own pathways, such as War Child. So here's the detail. This is where it gets a little busier. So you're thinking through the purpose, the mission of the badge, how it's going to help earners, how it's going to help organizations. You're thinking through, okay, how am I going to deliver this? Is it a course? Is it a certification? Is it sort of an other? And what's its context? Is it a standalone badge that can stand by itself, or is it part of a larger pathway? And then are you going to deliver it online? Is it going to be a workshop? Let's say COVID's over, you delivered workshop, or is it something where you take a course and then you apply it and then you provide evidence that you applied it and somebody looks at that? Different ways of doing that, and ways that can be automated. So in other words, an embedded quiz, and if you hit the 80% cut score, bang, the badge goes out. Or such as what we're going to do for some of these badge applications today, where somebody has to look at what you've written and say, yes, you get the badge. Or something in between, which is the I have a hidden talent. You just claim that badge and you say what it is, and then it's up to you whether you display it or not, and people understand that this is just about you, and you're an adult, and so you share the badge or not. So you create the badge content. The things that have to be there is it needs a name, it needs a description, and it needs criteria that say what it takes to earn the badge. And then optionally, you can add tags to describe it. You can say it has an expiry. So say it's a certification, it's only good for 36 months. When you get issued the badge, it comes with its expiry date. That gets calculated when it gets issued. Then it's no longer verifiable, no longer validatable. You maybe align it to, say, the core humanitarian framework, or maybe logistics or whatever. You can get endorsements. You can seek endorsement. They don't have to be organizations on the platform. They can be external organizations, say local organizations, government departments, things like that. You can even issue the badges in a multiplicity of languages. So we're sending out a lot of Arabic badges right now, for example. You can have badges in Tagalog as well as English and have them open the default language and have them flip to another language. The badge image, there's some technical things you have to bear in mind. It has to be a square, it has to be not too big. You can start thinking about branding yourself as an organization, and then you can start thinking about what's the visual vocabulary I can display in the badge that's going to support what the meaning of the badge is that people can read when they click on the badge. And then you implement your strategy. You upload it, you test it, you issue it to yourself. Okay, that seems to work. We were doing that for our badges today. And then you issue it, you make sure people understand why they're getting the badge. You maybe communicate ahead of time, you communicate with a good message when you issue the badge. And then you see, okay, what's happening here? Are people accepting the badge? Are they sharing the badge? And then you work the system and you run that sort of rinse and repeat and run that through again and again. Here's that safeguarding badge again. We keep on using it as an example. You see on the right in the form, this is beyond the badge factory, how the badge looks. I can also show you, if we have time, what the final badge looks like as well. But you see there's a name, there's an asterisk that shows that field needs to be there. There's a description, it's a bit like a tweet. It's just, high level, what's the mission of the badge? And then some tags that help describe it. And then in this case, we haven't got alignments. There is no expiry. Those are optional, as I mentioned. And then here's the criteria. So it's a self-guided online course. It takes about 1 or 1.5 hours to do it. There's a summative test at the end. You have to make 80%. And these are the outcomes that you'll have. So you'll know the importance, know the standards, and you'll know how to report concerns of safeguarding, which was one of the big issues in about 24 months ago. So that's a pretty transparent description of the badge. So just to, I see we seem to be doing pretty well here in terms of time. I just want to summarize for you folks. Badges can make learning more visible. I think we've demonstrated that with our hidden talent already. Badges can recognize a wide variety of learning, experience, and achievement, and sometimes in blended ways, sometimes in granular ways that can be put together. Badges are a global phenomenon growing fast, and they are supported by Hpath itself as an online community of organizations. We've mentioned we're welcoming more on. We already have more than 24. They're supported by the standards, and it's a free service for anyone who wants to earn a badge. So everyone who earns a badge today, everyone who's been earning badges, I see that my background, there we go. My background is, here's my reality, it's a free service for individual humanitarians and a way for you to connect with organizations and connect with each other and build online community around it. So you will have the opportunity to earn a badge for participating in this webinar, wherein you'll say, what did I learn today, how I may apply this in my work, and that would be part of a series, and you can qualify for the milestone badge as well. But in this case, I've given you a chance to go interactive and do a simplified version of what I talked about in terms of structuring the badge. And basically, you would say, who would you be as a badge issuer? What is the purpose of the badge, etc. So what I might do is just show you what that looks like, and show you what that looks like online. And so, applications.
As Don is showing us what that looks like online, just to say, please continue to post your questions in the Q&A, and we shall address them very, very shortly. Another thing I think that's going through my mind right now is what are our own individual action points as a result of going through this webinar? What do we individually want to do with a badge or badges? So that might be something for you to think about. It might be good for you to tell us about that as you fill in the reflection document when you apply for your badge. Would be very interested to hear what your next steps are, and also to hear if you'd like some more support from the Academy in some form or the other, whether you'd like us to run a bit more on badging, maybe a practical session, seminars. We'll be very interested to hear how you think best for us to support you in terms of moving to the next level as far as badging is concerned. Back to you, Don.
Great. So I just previewed there, and then we can go back and preview further. I would just sort of leave you here to say that we're happy to take any other questions. If you're interested, if you represent an organization that may be interested in joining Hpath and you'd like to explore that, here's some contact information you can follow up on. You can reach out to me directly through, I monitor the mailbox for info@hpath.org, or reach out to these people at the Academy. Alex Farrington is the head of strategic partnerships. Say, yeah, these are the upcoming ones. So maybe what we'll do while we have, and if you can maybe flag any questions for me, Sheila, that would be great. But in the meantime, I can sort of go under the hood a little bit and show you on my Hpath, for example. This is me live on my Hpath. These are badges that I've earned already, and some of them I would say that this was me just testing it, so you can accept the badge or decline it. In this case, it was just a test, so I'm going to decline it. But here are some badges that I've earned. This would be my Safeguarding Essentials badge, and this one I actually did earn legitimately. I took the full course, and it shows how I earned it. And here's me in Winnipeg, in Manitoba. I've placed myself. If I wanted to say that I earned that badge. I live in Manitoba, but I earned the badge itself in UK. I think this is how I do that there. So if I click there, well, hang on. Yeah.
Okay. As you're working that out, we have a few questions that have come up. Don, as you're working that out. The first one is, what do you think is the most common challenge that we might face when we start using badges based on your experience?
I think the most common challenge is overthinking it to begin with. I was mentioning this to somebody else. It's some organizations want to come at it very carefully, and they're sort of they organize it like a huge project. They want to get everything right to begin with before they move together on a broad front. And what we found leads to more success is to start quite small and learn from that experience. So you might have a course you're delivering if you're that kind of organization that's already quite popular. Maybe you add a badge to it and see what impact that has. See if people like it. And if they don't like it, that's fine. Not much has gone wrong. If they do like it, maybe they like it in ways that you didn't anticipate. Maybe they respond in a different way. So that gives you a chance to learn and build on it. So, and then you can sort of build up, because there's a number of thresholds of understanding, I think, that you can go through. So for many people to begin with, they think they're just digital certificates, but they can actually be a bit more than that. They can be managed more like a portfolio, more like a living document, and they can recognize things more than formal courses that have assessments. So that's what I would say, I think, is to find ways to start small and build on your learning.
Great, thank you. There's another really good question here. Is there a cost associating with creating a badging series?
That's, we work with organizations on Hpath, and to become an Hpath member, there are subscriptions. and the cost varies according to the size of the organization and the context of the organization. So INGOs pay the largest fee, smaller organizations pay a medium fee, and then in some cases there's provision for, say, local organizations that are quite small to be supported in creating the badges. Sorry, I can't be more specific. I could be in a sort of a more private conversation. So feel free to reach out and just explore that.
Great, thank you. And then the last question I have here, are badges relevant to more experienced people?
That's interesting. So if you're an experienced person and everybody knows about your experience already, perhaps you're not adding a huge amount of value by having badges, because you're just basically saying what people already know. But imagine you're coming into the sector. You're either young, you're just exiting education, or just starting to become active in the sector. You want to pick up knowledge and ability, and you want to be able to demonstrate that to people who don't already know that. So that would be useful. Or maybe you're making a transition from one role or one kind of occupation to a new occupation. That's going to be useful for you there. Or maybe you're doing it in a new community that, or again, where people don't know you. Certainly if people already know you and if they want you, they know how to reach you. Hi, can you do for us what you did last year? Then it's not going to add a huge amount of value unless you want to say, well, I don't only do that, I can also do this. You might be able to make that more apparent in terms of along the lines of that hidden talent idea, that you make that knowledge, that desire on your part more visible.
Okay, that's great. Let me see if, no, I think people are just really grateful for your input and grateful for spending time with us. So I think I too will join the echo to say thank you so much, Don, for giving us that 1 hour and taking us through badging and just helping us understand what it's all about and how easy or difficult it is for us to get a badge. So to everybody, thank you for your participation. Next week, we'll be having another session looking at inclusive education, and we look forward to your participation on that. And remember, after this, you can always go and claim your badge. And as you're filling in your reflective document, I really encourage you to give us some ideas of what you would like in terms of next steps, natural next steps after this webinar, and ways in which you feel we can support you better in your quest to earn badges or to create them for people who you're responsible for in terms of knowledge transfer. So thank you so much. And have a lovely rest of the week. Thanks, Don.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.